We have an incredible wealth of knowledge here sitting today, so thank you again for joining us. The first question is, what are today's specific practice model opportunities for optometrists, and how do each of those work? So I'll let ladies go first, and if Tracy could answer.
Sure, thank you. So part of what I get asked is, what is my eye doctor, or who is my eye doctor? And to understand that, I want you to imagine that we are a group of private practices where you are a W-2 employee, but you have all the benefits of a big company behind you, meaning all your benefits. So our company has grown by acquiring private practices. So if you can imagine that, every private practice out there is unique. So every office within my eye doctor is unique. So the best part of my job is I get to match you up with what your desires are, and hopefully I have that situation for you. So if I had to summarize it, I look at three things. One is, where do you want to be? Geographically, what state, what location of the country, as well as what type of patients do you want to see? Do you want to see the healthy, boutique, high-end patient, or do you want to see that rural, medically based type of practice, type of patient? And then the last thing is work-life balance. We have full-time, we have part-time, and we have PRN doc positions open for you. So I get all of those options and hopefully match with you on those locations.
Carl, what's your take on opportunities for optometrists in corporate optometry?
Here's the reality. Optometry is a tremendous and great profession. One of the things that makes it as good as it is you have so many opportunities to select your own mode. So rather than say, hey, you can be employed, you can be an associate, what I would encourage all of you to do is really look at your individual situation and say, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to do with my career? What is it I want to do in my profession? And the great news is there is something in this profession that's going to match you to that. If you want sort of a more flexible part-time schedule, those opportunities are available. There's opportunities in industry. There's opportunities in doctor networks and groups like My Eye Doctor. The one term that I hate is corporate optometry. I was recently on a panel with ASCO, and they asked if we've become a two-tiered profession. And really the gist of that was that some optometrists are going to practice to a lesser level or scope based on their location. And I answered that absolutely not. Doctors are limited only by what they want to do and what they choose to do, and so we're all going to self-select that. Good news for all of you, and again, a lot of students, is there's lots of opportunities, lots of options, and I'd say there are no modes. There's whatever mode you want to create.
Pam, we'll start with you. Could you please explain the key benefits of each practice model within corporate optometry?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of take more of a big picture kind of representation of this. So basically, you can either be an employee or you can run your own practice, whether that's in a lease model or whether that's a franchise. And I think that when you have to run your own business, you have to worry about a lot of the administrative and management responsibilities. You have to worry about vendor relationships, equipment, hiring and training your staff. Lots of different responsibilities there. But then you also, in an employed opportunity, you have kind of decreased financial risk. Those management and administrative responsibilities are handled for you. The patient base is already there for you. You can focus on patient care, and instead of having that sales-driven mindset that you would have when you're focusing on how many patients am I seeing and am I going to be able to pay the bills. I think that if you work for the right corporation, you also will find that you will have a network of support that will foster your professional development as well.
That's great. Great answer. Thank you. So, Michael, what would your take on this question be?
Sure. So I think, when you think of corporate optometry, there's three categories that I think people generally think about. And the first one I'll cover is employed. So what is the benefit of being an employed optometrist? I think the easy answer is low risk, right? Everyone in this room is going to be coming out of school with a lot of debt. And not all of you are going to have the capital that you may need to enter into a private practice right away. Employed optometry allows you a regular income right from graduation. Quality of life. Being an employed optometrist offers flexibility. If you're going to be working, you can choose the hours with the organization. Some of you may work for different organizations, so it allows you to have a little bit of freedom of schedule. And then I think the most important part, if you're thinking about employed, is work-life balance in terms of benefits. So a lot of you, as you graduate, are not just going to be starting your career, you're going to be starting a family. And you need to think about insurance, 401k, paid time off. All of those are available in the employed model. The other model that is most often used is the sublease model, which I think everybody up here uses. In a sublease model, I think if asking all of you first year what you wanted to do when you graduated, almost everybody says private practice. The great thing about a sublease model is it is a private practice, but you're affiliating yourself with a known brand and a known entity, and you're holding your private practice alongside of them. The advantage of that is limitless income. So you're not getting an hourly salary. As many patients as you can see and as healthy of a practice as you can create determines what your earning potential is. The last piece, or the last option in corporate optometry, is one that's not often talked about, and that's the franchise opportunity. In a franchise, you partner with a brand, and you own that location. And that means that from an earning potential, you collect the exam fees, you collect the glasses and the contacts. So it certainly has the highest earning potential. It also allows you, if you're someone who wants to control the entire patient experience, because you own the entire office, you can control hello, you can control exam, you can control glasses sales and dispensing. So they all have, a lot of it is thinking about your short-term and your long-term goals, and you may walk your way through all three of those options throughout your career, but those are the essential benefits of each.
So the next question, we've touched a little bit on the answers here. Please explain the main personal and job satisfaction benefits of each optometrist practice models.
So I think corporate optometry has a lot of different avenues that optometrists can go through. So the employed model, if that's what you want to be independent, you want to work in different sublease as well. So that's been a great thing for me to kind of learn the business as sublease, and I learned a lot over the years. And I think a lot of optometrists don't see how much they can really learn in corporate optometry for that aspect. And then there is a work-life balance. You know, I do have 2 kids and have my own business, and you can have it all if that's what you want. So.
It really depends on what your goals are. I had someone come up to me before and she was saying like, hey, you know, I should do private practice because that's what everyone tells me to do. And I was asking her, well, what's your goals? What do you want? And to choose a modality really depends on where you want to end up with your life. And if you've heard me speak before, I'm always speaking on this topic. And for some, your goals may look very different than others, right? And so you need to identify where you want to be, and that will help you to choose a modality regardless of what it is. So when we surveyed our readers in December, we surveyed 669 new graduates. Those are folks 5 years out. We found that the number one reason that folks chose corporate optometry was salary, right? Understandable. For private practice, the number one reason was just because they wanted that particular modality of private practice. Now, salary for them came in at number 5. So you're seeing that goals shift, right? Depending on where you want to go, and it aligns that way. And the statistics came in a bit further, and we know that salaries $100,000 and up, or excuse me, $101,000 and up, when you're a new graduate, 61% of salaries are at that level versus in private practice about 38%, right? So we're seeing an alignment of the data. Now, if you look at happiness and folks in these modalities, there's very little dissatisfaction once you've chose one. So different strokes for different folks. Things align based on what you want to do and what your goals are. So you really need to explore that. You need to take a look under the hood, go to events like this, speak with different individuals to find what aligns with you. Because just listening to what the myths are or the buzz on either end, private, corporate, I agree with you, Carl. Labeling it that is tough, but for classification purposes, ODMD practice, whatever it may be. Maybe you're practicing as an astronaut up in space. It doesn't matter. It's got to align with what you want. So until you figure out that piece, I would say, leave your options open. So hopefully that's helpful.
That's great. Nice statistics. Thanks for sharing.
Of course.
So we're going to move on to our next topic, which is topic number 2, and it is dispelling common myths about corporate optometry. So in our launch issue of Corporate Optometry, Maria wrote a great feature about myth busting in corporate optometry, and there are definitely some kind of misconceptions about the profession. And so we're going to start off with, and we're just going to go through a couple of myths that we'd like to dispel about corporate optometry. So the first one is the level of quality in eye care. So we'll start off with Carl and Tracy.
Yeah, so quality is a direct function of the doctor delivering the care. Quality has nothing to do with location. So myth number 1, quality is consistent with the doctor, not with a physical location.
I get asked a lot of times, because our practices are so diverse, and some offices may or may not have equipment necessary, as long as you take care of the patient, whether you have the equipment or you make that appropriate referral, that's what's important. Are you taking care of that patient regardless of location, regardless of whatever equipment you have access to? Everyone wants all the equipment, but you can still provide the quality of care if you do not have it by making that appropriate referral.
Right. The level of patient retention and ongoing patient base in a corporate setting, is that the same or similar to what you would see in a private setting? So we're going to move to Michael and Pam to answer that question. We'll let Michael go first this time.
So I think it all starts with a conversation, and it begins with finding the company whose philosophical beliefs match whatever yours are in terms of how you want to practice. Once you've done that, you've opened yourself up to an entire patient base of people who are loyal to the brand you're affiliating with. So the great part is that you have a brand affiliation and people who will come into that office to see you. I will share that I have been both an employed optometrist and a sublease optometrist. And early on, I was concerned about the perception my patients would have about their experience with me. But that's on myself and that's on all of you to change that perception. As Carl said, it's not where you practice, it's how you practice. And you can overcome those objections and you can exceed their expectations. And you can take people who are loyal to a brand and now you can make them loyal to you as an optometrist. You also have the benefit of, if you affiliate with the right brand, you have the benefits of marketing, which is done by the company to drive patients into your office. You have patients that go into a location looking for a repair for eyeglasses or perhaps looking for a pair of sunglasses. Every time that they're in that location, it's an opportunity for them to be converted to a patient back into your office. So it really opens up opportunities to take casual patients and convert them to that annual eye exam that we all want.
That's fantastic. Great insight. Thank you. So, Pam, what would you say on the topic?
Yeah, I would say that no matter what practice setting you're in, there are 3 main things that patients are looking for and that will make them return. You'll have a positive patient retention. Number 1 is their experience with the doctor. Number 2 is the value that you're providing. And number 3 is the convenience. And I think we're noticing that more and more with the online disruptors in the market today. And I think there's a couple keys to success, particularly in the corporate market. One is being a listening organization, surveying your doctors, surveying your patients, finding out what's working well, what your areas of opportunity are, and then acting upon that. I think number 2 is having optometrists at every level of the organizational chain so you can provide that feedback as well. And if you focus on patient care, taking care of your doctors, making sure the doctors are staying and want to stay for their career, then that will filter on to the patients and your patient retention as well.
Most definitely. You hear, some people say, oh, it's, a lot of long hours but, is it any different than private practice? So how about that myth? We'll start with Matt.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think practices will vary based on where you're at, and what you're willing to put in is ultimately going to be the time you want to spend. If you really want to get a lot out of it and you want to grow it, and you're going to put more work in, it's a fairly linear relationship. Each year we survey our readers, and 2017 and 2018 we surveyed around 1,600 new graduate optometrists, and in 2017 they said that their likelihood of remaining in corporate optometry was a 7.16 out of 10. right? In 2018, a year later, it rose 4% to about a 7.46. And I thought that was really interesting because folks are finding the reasons that they're grading this is, I like the scheduling flexibility. I like the way I'm able to manage my home schedule. I don't have to get a lot, at some locations, don't need to be very involved in the business side or the scheduling side. And essentially, I can be a doctor. I can see patients. I can focus on what I love without getting bogged down with some of those other pieces. And that's not every corporate model, right? They all vary a bit. But what that speaks to me is that folks are really enjoying that modality. And I think that that's a big myth, that you have to, if you're in corporate, you're there to stay and you're some prisoner or something like that. Huge myth. These folks love it. So if someone's going to grade their likelihood of staying somewhere, close to 80% or so, that's pretty good.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So, and Maria, I know you know a lot on the topic because you've written about it for us, but what's your take on this myth?
I think Matt touched up on a lot of great points. As a female, and a lot of the graduates coming out being 70% female, I think corporate optometry is a great way to go for these females for a work-life balance. A lot of them are employed, so have benefits. They can work part-time. I think some of them are 30 hours employed, and they can still be full-time. So, and then even some subleases where some doctors want to be have their own practice. It's turnkey. It's a lot less headaches, and you don't have to work 7 days a week. Some subleases are 3-4 days a week, and you're making just enough income, and you're happy, and you can still be a mom and have a family.
Corporate optometry starts to evolve and start to meet the needs of the folks who want to work there. Just give everything its fair chance and look at it open-minded in relationship to your goals.
For sure. So what's the new phrase? What, instead of saying corporate optometry, where do you go? I know Carl felt the same way. So what do you folks suggest?
We're getting ready to roll out a campaign, and you will hear from Luxottica how we're going to talk about those practices in a different way. One of the first things I did when I got there is said, look, there's a paradigm shift in our industry. Our industry is changing dramatically. More opportunity today than there's ever been. More patients that need care than there's ever been. There's much more demand for eye care today than there is a supply of optometrists. And because of that paradigm shift, we're going to change from Luxottica's perspective how you look at corporate or retail. That was one of my first mandates when I got there, was said, look, change that name, change that view. More to come. Maybe I'll see you at Expo West and we'll talk about it.
I think that's great that everyone up here is starting to drive that change. And labels sometimes help so people have an understanding of things. But I believe it's going to start to be labeled for what it actually is. If you're subleasing space, if you're an employed position, and that's what it should really be seen for, not just some label that fits because it's easy for people to classify. People should understand it for what it is. So yeah, I think they're doing, Lux doing a great job with rolling out those types of changes, and it's pushing everyone forward.
All right, then I'm going to open it up to the audience. Okay, who has the first question?
I work with Eye Care Business Magazine, and I see, so I do our social media. I'm curious how you guys think social media, are there more restrictions if you're in corporate optometry of what you can post? Feel like I see more independent ODs on Instagram and that type of stuff.
A lot of doctors have the
question.
marketing from corporate optometry or corporate opticals, and a lot of them have their own Instagram and Facebook pages and market on Google as well. So
they're independent practices. In two of
Right.
our states, it's labeled as Dr. Geller's practice.
Sure.
And they're going to brand themselves that way. So potentially the folks that are doing those things, you may not know that they're actually at one of those locations because they do see themselves as being independent, and they very much are. So I don't know if that really helps, but I think there's a call to action in general, regardless of what modality you're in, to put that information out there and build relationships through social media.
Regardless of where you're practicing and regardless of what you call it, the more ownership you take of that practice and that location, the better you're going to do. The doctors that are successful, whether they're in private practice, whatever brand you want to talk about, sublease, however you want to talk about it, the ones that are successful are the ones that have an ownership mentality, and they take ownership of social media and marketing and staffing and customer service and experiential patient care, patient outcomes. So don't just think about it from social media and marketing. Think about it, it's my practice, I own it, I own the patient relationship. Drive that, and the rest of it will take care of itself.
So, any other questions?
Regarding buying groups and alliances, and is there a perception that that category, for lack of a better word, is just for the independent, and people don't realize it's also for the corporate side of the equation as well?
I kind of stick in the middle because I don't like the word corporate at all.
Okay.
Because it does have some sort of notion that we might not be as aligned to a private practice, and we're kind of right in the middle.
Right.
But we are corporate because we're a W-2 employee and we work for a corporation or an entity.
Mm-hmm.
But that still doesn't take away from the service we provide.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
As professionals in the corporate area, how do you weigh personal vacation versus mission trips as to giving back? I know you have a limited time throughout the year of when you do have free time, so how do you kind of manage giving back and personal and professional life?
So I can talk about that because we do feel it's important to give back, and we do have mission trip PTO bank for our doctors. A lot of our doctors go on mission trips, and so they submit a request. Here's what we want to do, and we extend PTO coverage for our doctors to do mission trip or outreach or some sort of giving back event.
Actually, at National Vision, I think we're one of the only corporations that actually has a chief philanthropic officer, so we take that very seriously and definitely allow for mission trips and giving back to the community.
Are the employed, the folks that work for your companies, are they able to do any kind of give back? I mean, they're free to give back in their community and in terms of their practice and their business. I mean, what do you see with all the folks that you know? Is there a kind of a, there's freedom to do that, not just mission trips, but, let me go work somewhere or go to a school and do vision screenings, things like that. Is there freedom to kind of do your own thing?
Just Google our onesite.org. Look at the number of sustainable clinics that we've set up around the world, and then and our employees. Actually, my employee that should be here telling me what to say and what not to say is in Jordan on a OneSite mission trip right now. That time is all time that we give those employees off. So we're big on social purpose. And then in the local communities, in almost every major area where we are, we do local give back programs with various schools at I think, a level that's unmatched in the industry, quite honestly.
Okay, well, thank you so much to our amazing panelists. We really appreciate you being here and sharing all your knowledge.